Ah, yes. Here we have your typical party of adventurers in their natural habitat. The dungeon, of course. Oh, and would you look at that? It seems we've caught them just in time to see them defeat the final boss. Now each player eagerly checks the stats to see how they placed among their peers. Wait a minute. That's not. Now we get into the subject matter of this video. How to annoy your friends as a tank. If you couldn't already tell, I'm one of the annoyed friends. So there's a lot of different pieces at play here that go into making this build work. First off, we're going to start with the gear pieces. The armor pieces, the weapons, all the stuff you see on that page of your character sheet. And there's a couple of those that are important, and I'm going to highlight those. Everything else is interchangeable. So everything else that I don't talk about in this section can be anything else. I guess. That's what he told me. So here goes. Okay, so the first important item here is the Cosmic Corsair's Cap. We're going to talk about that because every 5 seconds you are in combat, which is going to be a lot as a tank since you are fighting the enemies, trying to get their attention and lure them away from the group to take all the damage while your group attacks them. You gain 892 power and combat advantage, and you have 5 stacks of that, which is really good if you're in a long fight. Secondly, we have the Astral Raiders Gauntlets, and they have a lot of defensive stats up there, but then when you see the equip power, it is scaled furor? I don't know. I don't know what all these medieval words are. Grants up to 20% bonus damage when your total item level is being scaled down. So this is for scaled content. Like, any dungeon that's going to scale your level down so you're not overpowered for its content, I guess. Oof. So that's good for scaled content. And then he's got it reinforced down here with the power kit. And yeah. And another appearance, but that doesn't matter. So next up, in the main hand, we have the Stormforged Mace, and the main reason in particular that you want this one is the 200 damage right at the top here. That's for, like, all your damage. That's not, like, power, right? Okay. He gave me a thumbs up. I'm doing good, guys. Anyway. And it's also part of the set, but we'll get into that when we talk about the next one. But the damage is the real reason you want this. Everything else, he tells me, is just bonus goods. Yeah. Now, the next piece of important equipment here is in the offhand, the Stormforged Shield. Now, this one's got high critical strike bonus, and it's got the Stormforge set bonus, which isn't really much here, as part of it's specific to the Underdark, and the rest of it is class-based, so for a tank, it just gives damage resistance. But the critical strike is good, and the combined rating is good, so that's why you have this one here. The next important piece of armor is your feet. Your boots, what you have equipped on your feet. Anyway, the tactful boots of the Dragon Hunter, and while it does have good combat advantage and critical severity bonus, the main reason you want this one is because of its equipped power, which is Discharged Force, which states when your action points are less than 80%, your power is increased by 7%. And so that means, like, the moment, like, when you use your daily power, then it goes down to 0, all the way back up until you build it to 80% or higher, then you get that 7% boost. So that's a lot of time that you're gonna have that boost, because this set is gonna have you using the daily power almost as soon as you get it, a lot of the time. So, good stuff to have there. Okay, so we're gonna skip neck and waist stuff because they're not important. They're the things that are interchangeable in this build. And we're gonna move straight on to the rings. So the first ring we have here is the I almost read that as Elder. Elendar Roots Ring. There we go. And you want this because it's got a lot of critical severity, and it's got an equip power that also boosts the critical severity. When in combat with 2 or more enemies, you gain 5,000 more on top of that. And we got the major combat advantage reinforcement. Good stuff. And the other ring is the Wayseeker's Ring of Punishment. That one's got lots of critical severity. But the most important reason for having this one is the at-will perk that it has, which means your at-wills, the ones that aren't like special power, the ones that you do with the triggers, those ones do 8% more damage. And he's also got combat advantage on it. But yeah. So those 2 rings are good. And then waist isn't important, we already said that earlier. So next, we have the shirts. The Luminous Star Woven shirts, to be exact. And then we have, that one's got critical strike, critical severity. But again, the equip power is the major reason you have this one. Charged Fury. When your stamina is over 75%, your power is increased by 7,500. That's correct. So yeah, as a tank, I guess you wouldn't really be using a lot of stamina, so that's gonna be going on a lot of the time. Then we have the Covert Branchy, whatever that word is. Raid Breaches, which has a lot of critical severity, but also, again, the main reason you want this is for the equip power, which does, when you have no teammates within 30, whatever this world's measurement is, of you, your power and defense are increased by 5%, which is really good for a tank because what you're going to be doing is leading the bosses and enemies away from your group so that they can take shots at it from a safe distance. So they're not going to be really anywhere near you a lot. So that's a good equip power to have for a tank. A DPS tank, in this case. Okay, we're going to start looking at the artifacts here, starting with the scintillating symbol of water. Now, this one's got a lot of critical strike, it's got the Maelstrom effect, which can deal a lot of damage, but I'm thinking the main reason you want to have this one around is for the 15% stamina regeneration. Though I did say there's not a lot of time where you'd be using stamina as a tank. There's that shield where you stand perfectly still and kind of basically just become an immovable wall. And I've been informed that that does consume stamina, and so you want this so that even when you use that ability as a tank, then you'll get back up faster to that 75% stamina, so that you get that power increase from the Luminous Star Woven shirt. So there we go. Kind of ties back into everything else. The second artifact we have here is the Assassin's Dice, and my dad has that because it completes the set he has for his neck and waist, apparently. And it also has high power, high accuracy. Okay, so we're gonna skip the middle one for now because, well, as you saw in the previous screenshot, that one was switched out. These screenshots were taken before that. Don't worry about what the middle one is now. The one I just talked about is the one that you're going to want to use. And so, now that that's been cleared up, we're going to move on to the third one, the Alarix. Yeah, sure, we'll go with that. Artillery Beacon. And that has a lot of accuracy, combat advantage, and And this last one here, this one is the one that you're going to want to make a note of for sure. This is actually worked into the way you unleash your power. So the way you unload damage, this is going to be the first thing you use. The Crystal of Soul's Flight. It's got the power, accuracy, combat advantage, so a lot of good offensive abilities. The target takes 10% more damage from every source. And so when you use that, then you're going to want to use all your other abilities after that to deal 10% more damage to what you have targeted. And that lasts for a good 10 seconds. We'll discuss that more when we get into that section of the video, but for now, keep it in mind. Okay, the next thing we're going to go over is the Enhancements, formerly known as Enchantments. Literally switched around a few letters, and now it's a completely different system. Hooray. Anyways, we're only going to be going over the offensive ones, obviously, because the defensive ones are for defensive stats, and that doesn't really help with a DPS tank. Anyway, we're gonna go over those ones, the utility, the bonus, combat, overload. We'll talk about all of that. So, yeah, let's get right into it then. Now, for his set here, he has 3 of the same one, the Celestial Citrine R. I don't know what the letters on the end mean, but R. It's got accuracy, combined rating, good stats to have, means you hit more, so you get more chances to deal damage, I guess. Sounds about right. So the other one we have here is the Celestial Jade. That's a lot of critical strike and combined rating. That's about it. This enchantment section is probably going to go by really fast. Next! Okay, at the bottom here in the utility slot, we have the Celestial Amethyst, which is 2,700 control bonus. Never quite figured out what that meant, but is good. And the combined rating. And that's it. And now we're going to move on to the next one. In the bonus slot, we have the Celestial Action bonus, which is 6% action point gain, which means you're going to be getting your daily power back a lot faster, which then contributes to the way that you release all of your abilities. And we'll get into that when we get to the final section. But you can get that off faster then at that point. Good. For the combat slot, we have the Celestial Wildcard, which gives you a bit of bonus damage up to 5 targets, and then it also increases, on top of that, the damage, all damage, by 12%, so that's a good boost right there. Now we're going to get into the Overload. Okay, first in the overload slots, we have Devil's Precision, and that is 5% critical strike, 5% accuracy. Again, accuracy means you're going to be landing more hits, and critical strike just boosts your critical hit damage, so that's good. And lastly, we have Rage of Flames, which is another damage boost, 5% damage bonus from this one. Now, my dad did inform me that when he switches, sometimes he'll switch these out, depending on if he's like going against a certain boss. Like he'll have one that boosts his damage against dragons, or maybe there's one for spiders. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of examples. And so he tells me that it is the top one that he will always switch out for that. In that case. And so, yeah, other than that, that's all the enhancements done. Next section. Here we go. So next we're going to talk about the companions and the companion powers that you want to have equipped in this set. And so first we're going to start by talking about the one he has equipped, the Regis, which once we get to the next panel you'll see he's named Regis. He's very original with names, very good with names. And so the reason we have this is for its enhancement, enduring, precision, and the critical strike buff. That's good. And then let's go over the equipment that it has then, which you're already kind of seeing. He didn't really send me a screenshot with just the enhancements, so I'm working with what I got, okay? Okay, so the first thing we have here is the ideal chain sword knot of the companion. Boy, they like stringing a lot of words together to make these names. And that's just a lot of accuracy, combat advantage, good stuff. Yeah. This section is probably going to be short too, huh? Then we have the sparkling sapphire ring of the companion, which is more accuracy, and on top of that, critical strike. Again, more good stuff. Then we have the starbound sword knot of the companion, and that is a lot of combat advantage and critical severity. To go with the critical strike from the other one. That's good. Good stats. And then we have the mythic companion in enchantment. See, here it's called enchantment. Why did they have to change the name? You know what, never mind. I'm just here to teach you how to do DPS tank. We're not gonna get into that. So the mythic companion enchantment does... So that boosts the companion damage by 150%. And so that's a big boost. That's good. And still R. Still have no idea what that means, but it's still there. R. Okay, now let's go over the bonuses that my dad has chosen. So first up we have the Golden Cat's Instincts, which is 7.5% combat advantage and 750 combined rating. They like round numbers like that here, apparently. Next we have the Baby Deep Crow's Presence, which is 7.5% power and more 750 combined rating. Good. After that, we have the Universal slot, which you're going to see a little bit later that this one will be switched out depending on the situation of the fight that you're going into. But for now, it's the NeverWinter Knight's Discipline, and that's... Ooh, wow, they changed it up here. The combined rating is listed first. Who would have thunk it? And then increases your outgoing damage by 7.5%. Interesting how they did that. I don't know why they did that. That's gonna bug me now. Let's just move on. So in the next Universal slot, we have Gromp's Confidence, which is 7.5 critical strike and 750 combined rating. Again, good stats. Hooray. And last but not least, in the utility power, we have Fawn's Instincts, which is 3.8 critical strike, 3.8 power, and 750 combined rating. And now we need to talk about how the one I mentioned before, the Guard's Discipline, gets switched out. And so, depending on if he's about to go into a boss fight, my dad will swap that out for Battery's Wisdom, or if he's going into an area like a dragon hunt or a spider hunt where there's like one of like a specific type of creature that he's going to be going up against, he'll switch it out for something like the Dragon's Bane, which is 11% damage specifically to dragon creatures. Yeah. And that about does it for the companion stuff, so we're going to be moving on to the next section now, which will be... Okay, so we're going to go into the next part that is important for the set here, and that's mounts and everything about them, like the power and the insignia bonuses, everything that with the mount and the stable. And we're going to talk about, well, the only thing he sent me here, the only picture he sent me is of the Vortex, which the carpet of flying, which that doesn't have to be the one that you have equipped, will rush in and circle and pull the enemies towards the center, and he tells me then what he does once he gets that off is he rushes the center and does his blast attack thing. Okay. Good. So that's what that does. And now we're gonna get into the stable and the insignia bonuses, and yeah, that's that. Then once we talk about that'll be it for this section. Okay, so apologies in advance. I don't know all of these mounts by name, so we're just gonna start from the top with the red and white dragon thing and just work our way down. So the bonus he has on that one is the Defender's Retort. On receiving damage, you deal damage in a radius around yourself, so AoE type of thing. And that's 1 barbed, 1 illuminated, 2 enlightened. I'm not sure, like, the type, like, because he has barbed, so you have initiative, of aggression, bond, courage. I'm not sure those ones, like, the color of what class, other, like, I don't know the word for it. It's not class, but, like, the secondary name of it, I don't think that matters. Just that it makes this bonus. And I don't think it matters for any of the rest of them either. Because this is the only picture he sent me. He didn't show me, like, exactly what type of crescent this is, or regal this is for any of the others. So, yeah. We're gonna work with this. So next up on this hand thing, right below that we have the Executioner's Covenant, which is decreased defensive ratings, increased offensive ratings. It's obvious why that one helped with the DPS tank. That looks to be Enlightened, Illuminated, Regal, and Crescent. Then on this butterfly looking thing, we have Combatant's Maneuver, which after controlling an enemy gain combat advantage damage. Still don't know what control I've never done that before. I don't know. But it looks like this is 2 Regal, a Illuminated, and a Barb. That's what makes that one. And on this Bat Demon, I guess it's a Demon Wings thing. Yeah, that's what that one is. That one we have Lionheart's Perseverance. When reduced to low hit points, receive heal and stamina. And that one is Enlightened, Regal, Illuminated, Barbed. Then on this gold dragon thing on the bottom, we have Master's Precision, which is increased critical strike at medium stamina levels. That's Crescent, Barbed, and 2 Enlightened. And that's it for this section. Wow. Less than 3 minutes for the whole set. I think this is a record for this video. Whew! One more thing I need to talk to you about is that based on the situation, whether he's fighting regular enemies, he'll have the other one I talked about, or if he's fighting a boss, he'll switch his mount combat power to Tunnel Vision, which is a very strong single target attack, so that's why it's good for bosses. And with that, that is everything for this section. Really short. Next one's probably going to be even shorter. So let's get into it! Okay, so the second to last section here is going to be short as well. We're just going to go over the consumable items that he uses right before every dungeon. Their effects should last long enough that it'll get you through the whole thing. So, yeah, we're just going to go over that. And then I just have to go over the order in which he does things. And that's going to be a little video clip that I'm going to commentate over, and then that's it. Okay, so starting off here, he does the Prime Rib, which grants, the hit points, but the main reason you want this is for the 4,000 additional power. That's the buff you want from this one. That's helpful for the DPS tank loadout. Then he uses the Wild Storm Elixir, which grants 2,000 critical strike and critical severity by 5%. That's good. Then we have the Critical Strike potion here, more critical strike on top of the Wild Storm Elixir. That's good. Okay, and lastly here, because you can only have 4 of these active at a time, is the Watermelon Sorbet, which adds another 5% to power, as well as accuracy on this one, and that's everything for this section. Now we move on to the final section. See, I told you this one was going to be quick. And I thought the other one was breaking records for the shortest section. This one's less than 2 minutes. Whee! Okay, so this final part I'm going to show you is going to be a video clip showing exactly the order of operations that goes into making such high damage every time. There's a specific order in which you have to unload these things in order to hit such high damage levels that you saw in the opening bit. Anyway, I'm just gonna roll the clip, and I'll try my best to explain everything as it's happening. Okay, so you kind of just finished building up his daily power here, and then you're gonna see that green. That green right there is the artifact. Then he did the daily, then he does the zoom mount, then he does the zoom in attack, then he just unleashes all his smites, and then he just goes with whatever he has left, which is the at-wills, and yeah. That's pretty much all I need to explain. And if you do this in tandem with everything else that I've explained in this video... Okay, one more thing really quick he wanted me to address was just the stat screen, and you're going to notice that the offensive stats are in the 50s or higher, while the defensive stats in this one are lower than what you'd usually expect for a tank. All the things that I mentioned before, go into making these stats. And another thing that, at least I know from my experience in general, you want to keep the stats from going in the red. So you want them to just look like this. You don't want them to go higher to like 90 and be in the red. That's not good. And so everything that I mentioned before kind of goes into making these percentages what they are. And he just wanted me to emphasize that, and that's all that you need to know. Carry on. This is the glorious result.